Welcome to the third weekly video vision update for the Christian Life Center. I'm Josh, and here's kind of what happens each week. So thanks for joining us. Is we got a lot going on at our church, a whole bunch, and a lot of what's happening, what, when, who, how, all those things. And one thing that we want to make sure that doesn't get lost in all that is the actual why behind the what, right? So we have indoor services, outdoor services, online services. We got movie nights and football games and small groups, and just want to make sure you understand that not only that we are doing these things, that you understand why we're doing these things. And so we kind of have this guiding mission that helps us shape everything we do. And here's what it is. At Christian Life Center, our mission is to make it simple for people to connect to Jesus and one another. So in everything that we do, we're asking the question, does this make it simple for people to connect to Jesus? And does it make it simple for people to connect to one another? Now, here's the thing. It's not easy. It's simple, because making it simple, we realize, is very complicated, and we'll get to talk a little bit more about that in a few weeks. But so kind of the filter we run everything through is, does this objective, does this program, does this staff person, does this ministry opportunity, does it make it simple for people to connect to Jesus and one another? And so that's kind of the driving mission, the vision that we can think, okay, if we actually make it simple for people to connect to Jesus and to one another, what would be the evidence of that? How would we know that those things are happening? And here's kind of what we envision, what we hope for, what we long for, is that we see Christ's bride, the church, be at the center, at the hub of everything going on in the community and in people's homes and neighborhoods and schools. So how do we make the Christ's bride, how do we make it simple for people to connect to Jesus and one another, so that every single man, woman, and child in our community can hear about Jesus, accept or reject those claims, become like Jesus? And so a mission, we want to make it simple for people to connect to Jesus and one another. Vision is, we really do want to see the church be at the center of the community, not just the building or the property, but just Christ's bride, Christ's heart, Christ's hands and feet be right at the center of it. And so that's kind of mission, vision. And then we got a strategy. Okay, how do we actually implore ourselves? How do we make sure these things happen? And here's kind of the thing that we say is, our strategy is to be a good steward of all that God's entrusted us with, to do three things: build excitement, build foundations, build bridges. So we're going to take all the resources, all the things He's given us. That's money, that's time, that's energy, that's buildings and properties and volunteers. Okay, all these things that God has entrusted to the Christian Life Center. How do we make sure that we're good stewards of all those things to kind of do three specific things? One of the things we talk about a lot here is building excitement. And what we mean by that is, we certainly think the gospel is really good news, right? Very exciting. And we think when you see Jesus kind of usher in this joy and excitement and party, that there is some good news when you find out that there is a God who loves you, has a plan for you, hasn't forgotten about you, and is bending and shaping all things for your good, my good, and His glory. That is exciting. And so one of the things that we try to be a good steward of is to make sure we use our resources to build excitement about who Jesus is and what Jesus has done and what He's called His church to. And one of the primary ways by which we build excitement is through weekend worship services. And I want to kind of hone in on that for a few minutes, on kind of talking about our weekend worship services, particularly on Sundays. And so I'll get back to that. But that is one of the ways that we are a good steward of what God's entrusted us with, is going, okay, how do we build excitement around the gospel? The second one is, well, we can't just get excited all the time. This isn't just a pep rally, because Jesus tells us that do not let your hearts be troubled. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, take courage, for I've overcome the world. This idea that Jesus is declaring to us there. He tells us in the Sermon on the Mount that rains will come. So we can't just be excited. We also have to build deep foundations and deep roots. So the second part of our strategy is, how can we be a good steward of all that God's entrusted us with, to build deep and meaningful relationships, both with Jesus and one another. And so we could talk about that being building foundations. And a large component of that right now that we're focusing on is building foundations in groups to help you be known and know people, to help you kind of be held accountable in the things that you're longing for, to become like Jesus, see your family become like Jesus, right? To help you have a place to belong and give you the opportunity to care for others and be cared for. And so I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a second as well. And then the third part of our strategy is, how do we build bridges, right? So we want to build excitement around the gospel. We want to build foundations. And then the third part is build bridges, right? We're not building the church. Jesus is telling us he's building this church. So we're trusting him to do that. And we're going, okay, how do we play our part in it? And so one of those is just building bridges into our community. What I love about Andy Stanley says it this way: if you want to build a bridge, you have to have footings on both sides of the ravine. So when we think about bridges, we think about how do we have nice footings on our church property, and I want to tell you what we're doing this weekend around that. And then also how do we actually have build bridges into our community, like spending time at Lincoln University, going to downtown Oxford, serving in different events, and leveraging different opportunities to go and build a bridge into our community. And so that's the third part of our strategy. What we certainly believe is if we build excitement and people get excited about the gospel, they say, hey, I want to grow deeper, and they sign up, and then they start to build foundations. And we believe as you build foundations, what inevitably happens is you can't help but want to go and build bridges and serve your community. And as we serve our community, what happens is more and more people become intrigued about Jesus, about his church, about the gospel, and show up to get excited about it, right? So kind of three-part strategy. It's cyclical. And so what I want to do for just a few minutes, and I mean that sincerely, we won't be on here long, is just talk very specifically about three things that we have going on, one in each of those categories. So I told you just a second ago, we're going to talk about building excitement. And a lot of what we're going to see here about building excitement is going to be focused on the weekends this weekend and upcoming weekends. And so one of the things that we're talking a whole bunch about is how do we help people connect together, right? One of the things you're going to see on all three parts of our strategy is we want to help people gather together to build excitement, right? We want to help people connect together in small groups to build foundations. We want to help people even come to the church property and see each other and experience community together and enjoy, events on our property. And so on all three of those things, what we're really talking about is figuring out how to help people assemble or gather. And I want you to know the why that we're doing that. And so in all three of these categories, there's a real specific reason. And let me just read it to you real quick. It's the author, the writer in Hebrews is telling Christ's bride some things I think are just really helpful for where we are as a church and world, particularly when we're finding it harder to gather. Right, many of you are struggling right now with even trying to figure out how your kids can connect and socially distance in the middle of being on Zoom classes all the time and all this time on the computer. So how do we help people gather? And this is what the writer says. It's Hebrews 10 verse 19 through 25. Here's what it says. Therefore, brothers, since we have confidence to enter the holy places by the blood of Jesus. So what they're talking about here is that we actually get access to God, that we can be made right before God, that right now we can stand before God, regardless of all the other circumstances around us, that we can trust that God's bending and shaping all these things for our good and his glory all the time. So because of what Jesus does for us through his blood, by the new and living way that he opened for us through the curtain that is through his flesh. So really, really complicated theology. He's writing to the Hebrews writer is actually writing to the Hebrews going, hey, you thought that you had to have an intercessor. You thought that some priest had to go talk to God on your behalf. You thought that you had to make all these sacrifices. No, because of what Jesus did, God made himself fully available to you. So hear that. He's fully available to you through Jesus and through Jesus's body and blood, right? Through his flesh, fully available. And it says this, and since we have a great priest over the house of God. So since Jesus kind of is now the one in charge, he's over the church, he's over the house, he's the one building it. So we have all this great news that we have access to God. We can know God now. You can know God today, right? You can have access to God, and the way that you have access is through Jesus, and you can take comfort in knowing that even if the church seems complicated right now, Jesus is still building it, great priest over the house of God. And it says this, so as a result of that, let us draw near with a true heart and full assurance of faith, with our hearts sprinkled clean from an evil conscience and our bodies washed with pure water. So we sort through our world. Let's actually understand that we can come to God cleansed and righteous before him. No, you're not a Christian. You're going, that's some weird stuff. But for those of church, I think you're starting to see this and experience, man, I can have a clean conscience. Like I can stand before God. And even if you're not a Christian, probably something you'd be interested in going, how can I know God and be made right with God? And the really good news is not just for now, for all eternity. So the writer of Hebrews is saying all that comes through Jesus, right? And then verse 23, as a result of all these things, it says this, ready? I want you to pay attention to the plural words, us, we, right? It says this, let us. That means this is one of the missions as a result of seeing what Jesus does for us, as a result of knowing that Jesus loves us and has a plan for us. This is what we should do. Let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promised is faithful. So he's going, let's, even in the middle of crazy circumstances, let's trust that God has a plan, right? So how do we do that? How do we actually trust that God has a plan? Well, watch what it says next. In verse 24, it says this, and let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good work. So he's going, in the middle of this crazy complications, you can trust that Jesus is good and loving and has a plan. And then he goes, and let's actually figure out a way to consider how we can stir one another up into love and good work. So you want to actually love your neighbor well. You want to live in this complicated world, and you want to participate in doing good things. There's a way by which you do it. Let us consider how to do that. And this is what it says. And here's how it says, not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. So what the writer of Hebrews is saying is he's going, you want to know how to stir each other up in love and good works? You want to know how to stay focused on this? There's a really good way. And it says this, by not neglecting meeting together. So as we're trying to figure out how we assemble back, particularly in light of COVID, there is a real why behind the what. It's not just because we want attendance to go up or giving to go up or whatever, those suspicions are. The reason is the way by which we stir each other up in love and good works is actually by meeting together. And as the habit of some aren't doing is what it says. But what we should do is encourage one another. And particularly what it says, I love this in the verse 25, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. Look, as we get closer to the complicated world that we live in, the more gray and convoluted and murky and messy our world seems, all the more reason to double down on meeting together. So in light of that, going, okay, let us actually not neglect meeting together, right? Let's figure out how to get the church family together in light of what's going on with COVID. And we've given you permission, want you to have permission, want you to give each other permission to kind of be in 3 different phases as it relates to COVID. Many of you are in green. You're ready to get going, right? That's okay. You're allowed to. But just be mindful that there are people that are more cautious and they're in yellow. And so you got yellow faced people that are going, hey, I'm out and about, but I'm pretty cautious in it. And you got some people that are just in red, and they're in red for good reasons. And they're going, hey, I just don't feel like it's time for me to actually be around other people, go out into this world or whatever. And so you got all these 3 different types of people in our church who are going, well, how do we not neglect meeting together? Meaning at the same time, how do we meet together? And so that's why starting this week, I want you to hear the number one priority in this is we are at 9 a.m. Hear me, 9 a.m. all going to meet together in one of 3 places. We can either be online. You can be online at 9 a.m. You can go to our Facebook page, YouTube page, or just go to clcfamily.church, click watch live, and we will be live at 9 a.m. Or for many of us, you'll be out in the parking lot. Now, I would say the parking lot will be a great place. We'll be streaming it on the big LED screen. It will be live out there and be able to see it well. You'll be able to sing well, socially distanced, all those kind of things. Or you can also be indoors in our sanctuary, but in there you'll be wearing a mask, no coffee inside. You can have coffee outside, right? There'll be a coffee station. You can come grab coffee before the service and you can drink it outside, just not inside, because if you're inside, you're in a mask, you're going into the sanctuary. We're going to worship together in there. I'm going to preach from in there. We're going to stream it online and also out in the parking lot. So want you to be involved in all the categories. And so if you're going to be online, great. Tune in. You can tune in before 9. See the kids worship time before then, and then Kids Zone will kick us off right at 9 with some worship, and then we'll jump into some songs, and then we'll be in Luke chapter 2 again this week. So at 9 o'clock, you can just tune in online on your computer, on your TV. You can go to Boxcast app on your TV or YouTube app, and you can just join us right there on your TV. Or you can also join us in person outdoors. Now, I would recommend, if you're comfortable with that, it's going to be great weather, come out there. But if you really, really want to be indoors, you can do that. It is at 9 a.m., but we need you to pre-register. Last I heard, there are less than about 50 slots still available. So what you would need to do right in this moment, you can go to clcfamily.church, click on signups, and you'll see the RSVP. Also in the newsletter you get tomorrow, there'll be a place that you can click to RSVP. Make sure to do that. Only 100 people this week. This is just an experiment. This isn't what we're going to do for always. We just want to make sure we can be back indoors, make sure to plan it well. But there is a real reason that we're doing it all at 9 o'clock. And so all of us can join together online, in person, and in the parking lot. We can encourage each other and stir up love and good works with each other. Now, as a result of this, one of the things that is changing this weekend is we no longer will be doing a Saturday night service at 5 p.m. So what will be happening is we'll be doing 9 a.m. on Sunday morning live. What we had been doing is going in and filming on Friday, packaging it up, playing on Saturday and Sunday online. But we felt like it was more appropriate to teach it in front of a live audience to be able to worship together. So 9 a.m. will be live, 10:45 a.m. and then at 5 p.m. there'll be a restream of the 9 a.m. service. So if you can't join us live, you can join us at 10:45 or 5 p.m. or anytime throughout the week on demand. So I want you to join us this Sunday, either online, in person out in the parking lot, or in person in the sanctuary. Now, one of the things that you'll see, and there'll be a link to this in the caption, is where you can go get more information about all these things. So it's clcfamily.church/services, and it will tell you about all three options. You can read the frequently asked questions, and you can see the map of where you should park if you're going indoors versus staying outdoors. All that at clcfamily.church/services. The frequently asked questions will also come in this week's newsletter. So that's all about how we build excitement. This Sunday, let's come with expectation. Let's gather together, not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. So we're going to build excitement this weekend. So please, please, please come join us 9, 10:45, or 5 p.m. So that would be really, really good news. Now, I told you that's the build excitement piece. The build foundations piece, I'm still going, how do we gather together, right? How do we help people gather together? And so we are committed to helping every single person in our church find community in a group, whether that's an online group, that's in someone's living room, in someone's backyard, on our church property. We want you to be in a group. And a couple quick ways to do it. In this caption, you can click the form to let us know if you'd like to lead or join. Or, as always, please, 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 we think you should do this. If you're interested in leading a group, you can text the word LEAD, L-E-A-D, to 610-869-2140. Or you can text the word JOIN if you just want to join a group. Or, again, go online, fill out the form, but it's JOIN to 610-869-2140, right? So that we can gather together, so that we can stir each other up in love, right, and good works. So, please, every single one of you should be known well in community. Would you please, please, please have the courage to let us know? And then the third one is, right, we want to build excitement about the gospel. We want to build foundations, and then we want to build bridges. And one of the things that's going to be happening this weekend at 1 o'clock and all, subsequent weeks as it relates to Eagles football games. The reality is, guys, people can't get in Lincoln Field right now. And in many ways, that's been a big community builder. Well, it's not around Jesus, but community where people see each other, know each other, celebrate, have common purpose and mission. And so there's a lot of Eagles fans around here. And so one of the things that's really neat for us is we have the largest outdoor television in southern Chester County, right? 23 plus feet, large HD, and it's super bright, so you can watch it during the middle of the day. And so because people can't go to Lincoln Field and watch the game in person or even tailgate there, what we thought would be really beautiful for our community, even for folks who don't know Jesus and all those kinds of stuff, is that we would create an atmosphere where people, family-friendly atmosphere, where people can come watch the game together, socially distanced. They could tailgate, grill out, all those things, and just enjoy a game. No, there is no bait and switch. We're just trying to be good neighbors. And yet, here's the thing I want you to hear, is that I am convinced, I think the scriptures back this up, that people always, hear me, always return to the last place they felt loved. So what I mean by that is when the prodigal son story happens, the wayward son goes away. He finally, eventually, when life gets so hard, when he is in a crisis, what he does is he actually returns to the last place he felt loved, happened to be his home, so he goes home in that. And so what we know in this world is our lives are filled with crisis and chaos at times, right? And we want to be a place that when people are in the middle of moments where they need help, support, care, resources, all those things, we want to be a church that people return to because they felt love there. So when we think about these ways by which we build bridges, I understand that an Eagles game doesn't have the gospel in it, right? And we wrestled through how to use our property as walking trails, and trails are treats, all these different things, and go, we understand that in those things there is no someone standing up and preaching and asking people to ask Jesus into their heart, praying the prayer, those kind of things. But we are in this for the long game. guys, we want to actually show our community we care about them and we love them because when crisis happens, we want to be a place that can love them and care for them. And people always return to the last place they felt loved. So let's be a place that loves them. That's that why behind the what. And just kind of a secondary why is, man, many of us have very few things in our calendars we're looking forward to. You vacation, good job. You're looking forward to that. You're wondering if it's going to happen. We're looking at our calendar about school and all these things and just wondering what kind of events will actually happen. Well, we want to bring some hope back into our community and some joy back into it. So to be able to offer games on Sunday out in a socially distanced area at 1 o'clock just seems to be a nice way to invest and love our community well. So you can get here as early as 11 a.m. for those games, right? 11 a.m. for those games. You can show up and start setting up your tailgate. Be responsible. This is family friendly, and you can show up at 11, have lunch out there, and be ready to watch the game at 1 o'clock. And so it'll be the same section that the drive-in service is. You can look online to see that area to park in. So build excitement. Gather with us this weekend, right? Build foundations. Let's get in groups, right? Time to do that. And then build bridges. Let's love our community. Invite your neighbors or friends with you to come watch the game this weekend. And let's begin the long game of loving people well and asking Jesus to stir up our love and our good works. And let's see what he does and all of those things. And so build excitement, build foundations, build bridges. Would you join us? And would you join us this weekend? Really, really, really want you to do that. Last thing I'll say as we wrap up is, guys, the reality is we got a lot going on. We have lots of services going on, lots of small group opportunities, lots of opportunities to serve our community. And we could really use your help. Right? There's just kind of this premise that you're not supposed to say you need help because people want to jump in on things that sound like fun, not out of guilt or those kind of things. But I just want to be really honest with you guys. We could use your help. We got a lot going on, outdoor, indoor, planning for groups, loving our neighbors, having Eagles games, movie nights. We're going to host school events, all sorts of stuff. And we could really, really, really use your help and would love for you to jump in and serve, not in every way, but in a way at our church. And here's what I'd love for you to do. I'd love for you to text the word serve, SERVE, to 610-869-2140. When you text that number, it'll pop up with, a few different options of places that you can serve. And it will tell you about kids ministry and student ministry. And all you have to do is select A through E, just A, B, C, D, or E. And we'll get that and we'll follow up with you this week. And so really simple next step. So you can jump in on all that God is doing. Text the word serve, SERVE, to 610-869-2140, and you let us know that you're ready to jump in, and we'll get you plugged in within the week, okay, or next week. That's it. Love you guys. Can't wait to see you this weekend. Let's gather together. Let's celebrate together. Let's build deep roots together, and then let's go love our community together. Be safe, and we'll see you this weekend.